Okay, so you know how people talk about eternal life? Like it's this whole other thing. We're kind of diving into that today with this audio clip, the thing we found, from thickshades.com. I think it'll make you think about it a little differently.
Yeah, it's not like, what you usually hear.
Right.
Harps and clouds.
Exactly. This one gets way more into what it actually, means even while we're, here.
It's more about, right now.
Yeah.
Are you connected to something bigger than yourself?
Mm.
That's where it starts.
So not just, living longer.
Not just that, no.
More to
life.
More to life, yeah.
While you're living it.
Makes me think of that, what is it, John 3.16, the audio mentions it, everyone quotes that verse, but it's what's the actual...
We'll just throw it around.
Yeah, what's the depth there?
This audio digs into that.
Mm-hmm.
What does it really mean when it says this whole gift of eternal life thing?
Right, gift.
And that we have a choice, it's offered, not forced on us.
Oh, interesting.
That's huge, right? Eternal life, or the alternative, which is basically being separated from God.
And that choice is... it's active. It's not it just
a path.
It's like a path, yeah. But it's also not just this far off thing, right? The audio talks about how we can experience it now, too.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. When have you felt really connected to another person?
Yeah.
Or nature.
Mm-hmm.
Or just this deep sense of peace,
yeah.
purpose. Even
those moments.
Those could be little tastes of it.
Wow.
Even if you're not super religious, it just hits differently.
Echoes of the eternal and the everyday.
Exactly.
You like that.
That makes you think, is there more to grab onto here?
And then if there is, how does that change how we live each day? Especially because the audio gets pretty real about success.
Oh, yeah.
Worldly success versus
the big stuff.
Yeah, what actually matters.
It's easy to get caught up in achievements, possessions.
Right, all that.
But what lasts?
It's that classic line, you can't take it with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Except the audio goes deeper. It's not just the stuff.
Oh, I see. It's
what you give your time to.
What you prioritize.
I love, even.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things.
Because that's where this life ties into the eternal.
And it's not like the audio pretends life's always easy either.
Oh, no.
There's that whole part about suffering, right?
There is, but that's where this promise of eternal life, it can change how you see those tough times.
So instead of just being crushed by it.
Right. It's not about pretending it's not hard.
You find hope in it.
You find meaning. Because it's not the whole story.
It's how you view suffering changes when you think about the bigger picture.
And that changes how resilient you can be.
That makes sense.
If this life is all there is, then yeah, suffering's just awful.
It's the end.
But if it isn't, that opens things up.
It's like that line from the audio, our temporary trials. How does it go?
Preparing us for something much greater.
Yes, that's it. It makes you wonder if everything, even the hard stuff, has some kind of deeper meaning.
Maybe it's all about how we choose to see it.
So living with eternity in mind, then.
That's the key. Not just believing it after we die, but letting that belief change how we live now.
Okay, so then unpack that a little.
What does that actually look like?
Yeah.
Day to day.
Yeah, what are the practical parts of it?
The audio uses this phrase, I love this, already passing from death to life, spiritually.
Whoa.
It's not waiting for the afterlife. It's about how you are now.
Here and now.
That's where faith comes in, purpose, that connection to something bigger.
It's like zooming out on a map, right? You see how everything connects.
Exactly. And it's on a solo trip either. This eternal life stuff, it changes how you treat other people too, right?
Because if it's a gift, you want to share it.
Right. But not forcing it on people. It has to come from a genuine place.
More you can't help but share it if it's real for you.
That's where love comes in. Not just romantic, but for humanity.
Wanting everyone to have that peace, that purpose.
That's the good stuff.
It is a beautiful thought, even if it's hard to fully get sometimes.
Maybe that's part of why it matters so much.
Keeps us searching.
Makes life interesting.
Exactly.
If we had it all figured out, what would be the point?
True.
It's the searching that makes us better, makes us more ourselves.
Okay, but if this eternal life thing isn't just a promise for later, if it's here now, how do we actually, tap into it?
That's the million-dollar question. And honestly, the audio doesn't give us step-by-step.
Which honestly is kind of refreshing.
Right, like a recipe, just follow these rules. It points to this verse, though, 1 John 5.4,
Okay.
about how life is found in connection to something greater.
So not a to-do list, but more like cultivating something inside.
Yeah, a way of being in the world.
That's aligned with that source of eternal life.
Right. And that's where it gets really personal.
How so?
Because you got to look at your own life. What do you value? What makes you happy? What if you actually believed deep down that this life isn't all there is?
How would that change things?
Would it? That's what we got to figure out.
It's like actually living it out, not just thinking about it.
Yeah, putting it into practice,
Totally. And that's where this whole Christ part comes in, right? Like, even if you're not like Christian, it's interesting to see how that tradition views it.
It's like a different perspective on the same map.
Right. The landmarks are named different, but you're still trying to find your way.
Exactly. And here, the destination isn't a place. It's more like a way of being aligned with something bigger than just us,
Okay, so how do we do that then? Align ourselves, I mean?
Good question. And the audio is pretty clear.
Yeah.
It's not just thinking about it.
Gotta actually do something.
Actions speak louder, right? It talks about sharing this whole eternal life thing, but not in a pushy way. Through love, basically.
Not preaching, but living it out.
Yeah, compassion, helping others. It's like those things, they come from that same place, that eternal life connection.
Oh, interesting. So by doing those things, you're tapping into it more.
It's like a cycle, right? The more you're connected to that source, the more you naturally act that way.
Yeah.
And acting that way strengthens the connection.
Beautiful. Makes you wonder about community then, too. Like, if it's not just about saving ourselves, but being part of something bigger.
This audio touches on that a bit. There's that part where it talks about Christ and,
Yeah.
how's it go? Abolishing death and bringing life and immortality to light. It's like this message, this idea, it can transform more than just one person.
It ripples outward.
Right, into communities, the whole world even. It's recognizing we're all connected, part of something huge, something eternal.
So it's bringing a little bit of that eternity into the here and now.
Yeah, and living from that awareness,
Yeah.
that can change things big time.
Right.
But, the audio doesn't shy away from the hard stuff either.
Right. Like suffering. Still got to deal with that.
It's not about pretending life's perfect, but this perspective, it changes how we view those tough parts. Like that part about true wealth.
Oh, yeah, not about money or possessions.
It's about that connection to something bigger, investing in what lasts.
Like that saying, you can't take it with you.
Except here, it's less about what you can't take, more about realizing what's actually valuable.
Eternal life being the most valuable thing there is.
The ultimate prize, some might say. And the audio reminds us it's not something we earn, it's a gift.
Given freely.
Through grace. It always comes back to that. And that grace, that love without conditions, that's what changes us from the inside out.
It's a message that really does speak to everyone, don't you think? No matter your beliefs, we all want a life with meaning, with purpose, with love that lasts.
It's the language of the soul, you could say, universal.
And maybe if we really listen, we can hear that language all around us.
In the quiet moments.
Yeah. An invitation to live a bigger, brighter life.
It's an adventure, isn't it? Stepping outside our limited view to see what's really possible.
Love that. This whole deep dive then, it's like part of that adventure.
Maybe it's about nudging us along on our own journeys towards transformation, towards love.
And realizing, even if we don't have all the answers, the searching itself, that's where the good stuff is.
It's in those moments of searching, of trying to understand something bigger, that we really start to see that spark inside each of us, that connection to something amazing.
Wow. Yeah. That's a good place to leave it, I think.
It is. It is.
It really is about the journey, isn't it? Like figuring all this out. Life, death, what comes after.
And the tough questions that come up along the way.
Yeah.
This audio, it doesn't shy away from those.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to suffering,
Yeah, it acknowledges that it's not all sunshine and roses, but it does suggest that even when things are hard, this idea of eternal life, it can change how we see things.
It's about that bigger context, right?
Yeah.
Our struggles, pain, even grief. They're not the whole story. Remember that line from the audio, something about our light affliction.
Oh, yeah. Which is, but for a moment.
Worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. Heavy stuff. But then saying that even our biggest challenges, compared to forever, they're temporary.
So it's not about pretending those hard things don't matter.
No, not at all. They matter in the moment.
But there's something beyond that.
Exactly. And that's where the hope comes in, right? Knowing this isn't all there is, and that we're not going through it alone. The audio makes that clear, too, when it talks about Christ abolishing death, not just for himself, but for all of us.
It's a shared experience then. This journey, this life, death, whatever comes next.
We're in it together, walking alongside each other. And that's where love comes back in, wouldn't you say?
Because eternal life isn't just about, like, escaping this world. It's about bringing something of that eternity into how we treat each other.
It's about sharing that connection, that purpose, that joy. That's what makes it eternal, that love that flows outward.
It's like the more you experience it, the more you become a part of it, and it just kind of radiates out from you into the world.
It's a beautiful thought, isn't it? A world where that kind of love is the guiding principle, where death isn't the end, but just a transition.
To something more, something we can't even imagine right now.
Exactly. And even though we may never have all the answers, even though those doubts will always pop up.
It's the searching that matters.
It is. It's in the seeking that we discover what's truly important.
And maybe, just maybe, that's the whole point, right? The journey itself is the reward. Each step we take, each choice we make, it's all bringing us closer to that eternal purpose, to that love that connects us all.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said.